to say welcome. We haven't been doing the house calls for a few weeks, and reason why is because we've been traveling, and so don't have all my equipment. So this might not sound as clear and accurate in the sound as it usually does because, like I said, I'm on the road traveling, working some basketball tournaments myself. But just wanted to share with you tonight. I wanted to make sure I brought in the same information that I did when the NFL had its draft. And we know tonight in Brooklyn, New York, at the Barclays Center at 8 p.m., there will be the NBA draft. We just crowned the Oklahoma City Thunder as the NBA champions. And this year, tonight, we will have the 2025 draft. And so, as I put in my opening statement, tonight there will be some names called, and there will be some names that won't be called. And what has the person done to actually be prepared for tonight? After, if your name is not called. So you're listening to House Calls, a special edition on Wednesday, June 25th, the night before the night of the NBA draft. So let's go into a little bit of information about the NBA draft in itself. But let's talk about the pipeline from youth hoops to NBA hopeful. Where does it start? It starts in youth basketball. A lot of times there's about 540,000 boys around the country who play high school basketball in the U.S. We're not talking about international individuals who are a large part of also that number, but the numbers are increasing. And then what happens when they go out of high school? About 18,000 move on to play college basketball. So that's less than 3.5% of the original 540,000. So if you're a parent, if you're a young aspiring athlete, I want you to hear these numbers because those are the most important thing besides the journey. So now that we have 18,000 who move on to play college basketball, let's talk about how many of those are eligible for uh, the NBA draft. Less than 2% become eligible for the NBA draft. So they're saying, well, what's that number? What does that number look like? Well, tonight, there will only be 58 names called over 2 rounds. Only 58 names will be called out of those 18,000 who may move on to play college ball, but only those 2% who are eligible for the NBA draft. So we have to realize that only 58 names will be called. So you got to look at how that's funneled down. That's a funnel from 540,000 to 58, or roughly 0.01%, right? And a lot of people, in one of my books we call Numbers Don't Lie, People Do, that's what's happening. We tell our kids to dream big, and I agree, I really do. But we must also teach them how to build bridges to those dreams that aren't built on only basketball courts. You got to teach them that if something is to happen, or if it just doesn't happen for you, what do you have as an alternative plan? What are you going to do to take care of yourself to also feel the value that you felt when you were on that basketball court? So let's talk about what that journey looks like, right? Because by age 8 or 9, elite athletes are already on travel teams. We see people going around the country picking up these 8 and 9 year olds and putting them on a travel team and calling that an elite travel team. The basketball stuff we're doing now, what do these parents pay? Some of these parents spend about $10,000 a year on training, tournaments, and travel. And then we talk about what's next. Everybody wants to get the upper hand. So then players attend combines, exposure camps, and elite tournaments, right? So the parents may have to put out a little bit more money. So let's up that to about 20,000 a year. And then you got some kids by the age of 14 or 15, they moved away from home and now they're in these academies or in these private or prep schools where there's a collective group of individuals who are playing. And so as those numbers we talked about earlier are growing, also the numbers towards reaching that goal are also uh, being diminished. They're going down. They're going down. So One of the things it says, what does it cost to chase greatness? Sometimes everything: time, money, mental health, relationships, and yet some do it without a net or a plan A minus. And I say, not a plan. I don't tell people plan Bs, because people say, well, why don't you get a plan B? Well, a plan B means that you are never going to reach or accomplish your plan A anyway, because you're already looking at a deferred plan. Let's look at a plan A minus, which is an alternative plan that can get you up there. So let's talk about when the dream is deferred. Many elite high school and college players go undrafted. Some can play overseas, some can enter the G League, others never play again. They play in rec leagues, they go back and they continue to try. But for those who are cut, injured, or overlooked, there's rarely a support system for emotional fallout. But I'm here to encourage you and say not getting drafted isn't a failure, it's a pivot point, a detour, because greatness isn't just about being seen, it's about being built to last. So if your name is not called, what have you done for your name to be called tonight? And then if it's not called, what is your alternative plan for you to, if you want to continue to try, what are you going to do to try? What does that look like? Right? Now, one of the things I want to emphasize is that, you know, greatness is forever. It's forever. We celebrate the ones who make it, but we also must uplift the ones who don't by showing them that the worth isn't tied to a jersey, that their worth is more than the sport they play. The sport is something that teaches you skills, life skills. It teaches you teamwork. It teaches you things that you'll need in the real world. So you take those opportunities and you try to make those into something that's going to develop you to be just as successful as you are on the court as you will be in life. So you don't look at it as failure. You look at it as just an opportunity, right? And your greatness isn't determined by a draft pick, but by your discipline, your character, and how you impact the world after the buzzer, after the lights go off, right? So one of the things I want to say, let's teach our boys how to be more than a highlight. Let's show them how to be a legacy. And you know, I say that all the time here on House Calls with Dr. Rory Edwards. I always say, let's develop a legacy. So if you're playing the game and you're excited about highlights, how does that transfer into you developing a legacy in business and leadership and community life, right? Because we know that one day, even if you do get drafted, it's going to come to an end. It's going to come to an end, but in most cases, you're going to have a lot more life after that. So I want you to really consider that. But I want to say this to every young man watching who will be watching the NBA draft tonight: celebrate your brothers, but in the name, if your name isn't called, don't collapse. Recalibrate. Greatness isn't always about getting drafted. Sometimes it's discovered and still lives in you after that night is over. But again, I want to go back and tell you the numbers. It started off with you, the Bulls guys who are looking at getting drafted tonight. It started off with 450,000 of you playing basketball in the USA, and then 18,000 of you are now in the college ranks. But again, less than 2% of you will be eligible for the NBA draft, and tonight only 58 names will be called. So think about those numbers. That's a funnel again from 540,000 to 58, and that's roughly 0.01%. So we have to look at our young man, and we have to make sure that when we're talking to them, when we're talking to our children now, today, when we're talking to them, we got to make sure that they understand that they're more valuable than the ball they're bouncing. We have to teach them that that's not what creates them. That they were created here to utilize the sport to build something, a character that is much stronger than the game. So for all those who will be watching tonight, I actually have a few names who I'm looking, hopefully, to hear called tonight. And I wish them well, and hopefully their names will be called, and they will go on and do great things in that basketball world and journey. And for all of those who are coming up in the sport, just make sure that you create something just as important and put in just as much time as you do to the basketball training that will create you and make you a great and valuable and valued individual outside of sports. All right. With that being said, this is your man, Dr. Rory T. Edwards. A little small, different edition of House Calls because, like I said, I'm on the road and we're traveling, and so I don't have all of my equipment with me. So I have to do a makeshift setup to make sure I can get this information out to you. But I hope everybody's doing well. And you know how to contact us. You can go to our website, www.rorytedwards.com. You can send an email to rorytedwards1@gmail.com. But in the meantime, in between time, I hope your team tonight gets the right player for you. And I hope that if you have a child who's experiencing this type of enjoyment through basketball, that you make sure you balance basketball and sports with life, because he's going to have more experiences in life than he will ever have with sports. All right? So until next time, be well. Ashe.